Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hard Count Football Podcast. My name is Jacob Charnow, leading the next generation of football fans on the Hard Count Football YouTube channel, and of course, here on Razzball Fantasy. Guys, we have a very exciting episode because this topic is one that is incredibly relevant right now. I mean, it's essentially news. We're going to be talking about the best landing spots for recently released Arizona Cardinals wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. So Hopkins was released by the Cardinals last week. D-Hop is 30 years old and was injured for a good portion of last season, but there is no doubt that he is still a top talent wide receiver and will be a weapon wherever he ends up. He's already said that he wants to go to a situation with a good quarterback and stable ownership, which is certainly understandable. D-Hop has never been in a spot where he's had both those things at the same time. And he's at the point in his career now where he should absolutely get that chance. So let's dive right into these landing spots. The top two choices are the obvious ones, as not only are both teams attractive destinations for DeAndre Hopkins, but they could both use him to put their team to put even more star power into their already loaded offenses. So the first team is the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said, a pretty obvious one. We know that the Chiefs are going to be interested in DeAndre Hopkins. But when you look at this roster right now, I know we had this conversation last season about the Chiefs, how we were saying, are they going to fall off? They lost Tyreek Hill. What is this offense going to look like? And they ended up going out and winning a Super Bowl. But right now, the Chiefs don't have a truly dynamic outside wide receiver like D-Hop. And putting him in an offense with Travis Kelce could be lethal. I mean, Kelce has been pretty much the active wide receiver one on the Chiefs since they lost Tyreek Hill, despite being a tight end. And Hopkins could be that true wide receiver one that they've been looking for since Hill. It's an obvious choice for Hopkins, but it's certainly one that makes sense. So the other team in this top two of the obvious choices are the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are the other team that would be competing with the Chiefs to convince Hopkins to play for them. D-Hop, he would serve more as a luxury in Buffalo's offense rather than a need, like in Kansas City, since they already have Stephon Diggs. But if we're being honest about Buffalo, Gabe Davis, he didn't develop the way that Buffalo had hoped last season. He didn't. So Hopkins could take over that role that Gabe Davis was playing, pairing him with Stephon Diggs and having Davis serve as a wide receiver 3 could allow him to kind of develop into that budding star that they hoped he would be. Putting Diggs and Hopkins in the same offense, I mean, like just the thought of that is a nightmare for any defense that they're going up against, especially with Josh Allen throwing them the ball. Buffalo checks off all the boxes for what Hopkins wants in his new team. Good quarterback play, stable ownership, all that stuff. And we know that D-Hop has been the most connected to Buffalo. And I think that this is probably the most likely landing spot for the former Cardinals receiver. The third team, here's where we get kind of creative with these choices. So the third team that I have here is the Detroit Lions. The Lions, I mean, they're actually going to be competitive in the NFC, not just the North. They're going to be competitive in the conference, in the NFC. It's them, it's Philly, and it's San Francisco in my mind right now. Pairing D-Hop with Amon-Ra St. Brown could be awesome. It will be awesome. I know Amon-Ra he's already developed, I suppose, but getting him another veteran presence in that locker room could be huge, especially with Jameson Williams and all that. Like, D-Hop is the perfect veteran for Detroit's wide receiver room. And it would give Jared Goff even more firepower, who Goff played really well last year. There's a reason they didn't move off of him. They were a game out of the playoffs. They were arguably the best team in football in the last couple weeks of this season. I know it's crazy to say that the Lions are going to be one of the best teams in football this year, but I genuinely believe that they will be, just because the NFC is so weak and they do have a lot of talent on that team. It's unlikely that Hopkins views Detroit on the same level as Kansas City and Buffalo, as he probably shouldn't, because KC and Buffalo, in terms of their coaching and their ownership and all that are on another level. But I have a feeling Dan Campbell's going to be in Detroit for a long time. I like their general manager. But it would be an awesome spot to see D-Hop end up in. The fourth team I have here is the Baltimore Ravens. And this is another one that's kind of been discussed, but seems unlikely. But if Lamar Jackson really wants to showcase his arm talent rather than his running ability and kind of show why he is a true quarterback, why he's worth this contract extension that he just got, and why he's going to be great under new offensive coordinator Todd Monken, you want to give him every single weapon that you can. They signed Odell Beckham Jr. and they drafted Zay Flowers. So they added to that receiver room already. But why not load up the room even more with elite talent when you get the chance? OBJ is a huge question mark. He's coming off another torn ACL. We don't know what he's going to look like next season. I think it was a great addition for them, but they're paying him a lot of money, and we don't know what OBJ is going to look like. That's the harsh reality. And Zay Flowers is a rookie, and I really like Zay Flowers. Anybody who was keeping up with my draft content knows Zay Flowers was maybe my favorite wide receiver in this draft class, and I love him in Baltimore. I think that will showcase his ability perfectly in the slot. But pairing a true wide receiver one in this offense with Mark Andrews takes a lot of the pressure off of Zay Flowers' shoulders, of OBJ's shoulders, which is big for both of them. Because for both of them to come in and play a huge role in this offense right away, I don't think that's a great idea. So pairing a true wide receiver one with Mark Andrews, who's already elite, do it and watch this offense thrive. It would be another huge get for Harbaugh and Ozzie Newsome, their GM. So I would love to see DeAndre Hopkins end up in Baltimore. The fifth and final team that I wrote down here, I said the Dallas Cowboys. And I know, right? Like Dallas. but if Dallas wants to create, I don't know, the best wide receiver trio in the league, like easily the best wide receiver trio in the league, they would bring in D-Hop. They would pay him what he wants to be paid. Pair him with, it would be him, CeeDee Lamb, and Brandon Cooks in the same offense. That gives Dak Prescott all of the pieces that he would need to perform. No more excuses for Dak Prescott after this year. That team, if you get D-Hop, that's a team that you're going all in. You are competing for a Super Bowl, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be if they just traded for Brandon Cooks. They clearly view themselves as contenders. They were in the divisional round last year. To get over that hump that Dallas has been looking to get over since 1995, to get over that hump, D-Hop is their best chance of doing it, especially with this offense. This defense was pretty solid last year, and I think they're going to still be pretty good this year, but it was this offense. If you can't score points, you're not going to win games. Give Dak Prescott every piece you truly need to evaluate him to see if he's worth that $40 million extension that you gave him a few years ago. Bring in DeAndre Hopkins. The Cowboys are probably the fourth best team in the NFC right now in my mind, right after Philly, San Francisco, and I think Detroit is currently better than the Cowboys are. But getting D-Hop, it would give them an edge over some of the teams that they would need to compete with. And I honestly think that this makes a ton of sense for DeAndre Hopkins in Dallas. That's one of all five of these teams: Dallas, Baltimore, Detroit, and then obviously Buffalo and Kansas City. If he doesn't choose to go to one of those top two teams with Chiefs and the Bills, all three of those other options I think would be very solid landing spots. I don't like him in Cleveland. I don't know why. I just don't like him in Cleveland. I don't think that that's their best chance at success, if I'm being honest. I don't. So those are my five favorite spots, the five best landing spots for DeAndre Hopkins in my mind. And with that, we're going to wrap today from the Hard Count Football Podcast. My name is Jacob Charnow. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this week. Be sure to go follow me on Twitter at Jacob Charnow right here, and on Instagram at Hard Count Football. Be sure to subscribe to the Hard Count Football YouTube channel, and of course, subscribe and check out all the other amazing content here on Razzball Fantasy. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you next time.